Hey everybody, welcome to our channel, or welcome back. It's great to see everybody. My name is Juan Scribe, and here at Ethereal Arts Studio, I'm an artist. You're an artist. We are all artists. So today I'm going to show you how I made this airbrush homage to John Carpenter's 1983 Christine, based on the novel by Stephen King. So here I have my black canvas ready, and my airbrush machine is also ready. I'm going to be starting by making a stencil of the 1958 Plymouth Fury. So I fold a paper so that it will be equal on both sides. Then I'm going to make the shape of one side of the vehicle. So the video is a tutorial, so I hope that you'll at least give it a try. You might surprise yourself. So after we draw the shape, we go ahead and cut it out. So we're actually going to use both sides of the stencil, but we'll begin with the inside piece. So since the car is from the 1950s, here's some 1950s inspired music. And as you can see here, we're going to begin with the airbrush. We're going to add some white, a little bit of blue. Then we're going to add more white because we want to make this a very, very light blue. And this blue that we're going to use is actually to create some glare around Christine. So I'm gonna hold the stencil steady in place and pretty much let the airbrush gun do most of the work. And as I mentioned before, this is glare around Christine, so what we're leaving in the middle is gonna be Christine, the car, as you'll see when I remove the stencil. But first, let's add more blue. We want to make this a lot darker now, and this is basically just for the ends, like meaning the outside portion of this glare. We want the outside portion to be darker, more blue. And voila, here is our stencil. What it has done, it has left most of Christine in the middle now. So now let's take some of our light blue, what we started off with. If we need to add a little bit of white, that's fine to make it lighter. And let's add 2 circles on each side. And this is pretty much the glare for the headlights now. Add some light here in the inside, 4 of these rectangle shapes. This is for the grill, which we're gonna paint later. A little bit here under the tires as well. Now let's go very, very light. Let's add white to our airbrush. This is going to be underneath the car. Bright, bright light. Very quick, very easy. And now let's go for some red, but we need to cut out a little bit of this stencil. I'm going to make a line so that you can see just how simple the shape really is to cut out. You can fold the paper again so that it will be equal. And we're gonna go for red. Now, of course, you gotta wash your airbrush gun if you are using the same one. But we actually are gonna use both stencils so that the paint will stay within the confines of the car. So now I'm going to carefully add a little bit of red to soften that line, that bottom line, where the red meets the black. It's a little too sharp. I'm simply adding a little bit of paint to blur it. Now I'm going to use some actual paint brushes, and I'm going to start painting the top of the car. So I'm going to add some black and add water to it, a couple of drops. because I want to make it a soft color, add some white to it. And I'm actually also going to add a little bit of blue so that it will be consistent with the painting. Here's a little bit of blue. Mix that in, maybe a couple more drops of water. And with that, I'm going to start making the top of the car. And while I do that, let me share a little bit about my fascination with the film. I watched it very, very early on, as most of the movies I watch that I paint to. And it stuck in my head. It had a great soundtrack, and it had an even better cast. Keith Gordon, John Stockwell, Alexandra Paul, Robert Prosky, Harry Dean Stanton of Alien fame, right? Also Kelly Preston and Roberts Blossom. And of course, John Carpenter himself directing it. My favorite horror film director, The Thing, Halloween. But back to the painting here. So what I'm doing is just rubbing some of this paint very softly, just rubbing it in and not adding too much so that it's soft again. Very soft is the inside of the car, but there's also a lot of glare in there. There's also maybe some steam, and that's why it's unclear inside there. I'm going to use more of this paint. I'm painting now the windshield wipers on both sides. Let's also add the mirrors, of course, one on each side. So now I'm going to make more of this blue-black concoction, and I'm going to use a bigger brush too. And I'm going to paint the grill. Now this brush is flat so that I can make all sorts of broad lines, but also very thin lines at an angle. So here are some broad lines, and paint a little bit around it. Make sure it kind of blends with the black that's already there. And then some thin lines. Now I'm going to go back down to a smaller brush. I'm going to use some white airbrush paint, and I'm going to paint the headlights themselves. Now I'm starting off small so then I can add, because it's always easier to add than to have to subtract. So start off small, and then you make them bigger and bigger progressively. You don't want to make them too big at first. So let's add a couple of more details, not too many more. Let's go for a medium shade blue, mixture of blue and white. Just add hints of light that are hitting the car. You guys that have watched my other videos, you know I love doing these kind of details because they really make the picture pop out. And here I'm back to a larger brush and some watered down black airbrush paint so that I can establish a shadow under the car, under the tires. I have some gold airbrush paint, and I'm gonna go back down to a very small brush, and this is to make the emblem on that Plymouth Fury. Now, if we leave it like that, it's a little bit too blunt, so we need a little bit of shadow in there, a little bit of darkness as well. So I have some black paint, and I'm just adding some shadow. So we're almost there. Just a couple of more tiny little hints of light that are hitting the car on different sides of the red part, just to complete the realism. Here is a little bit of the steering wheel as well, just a hint of it, as well as the rear view mirror right here. And after this, we can go on a wild, nostalgic ride. Well, thank you so much for watching the video. I really hope you'll give it a try. Just go for it. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Visit etherealartstudio.com. Visit our Etsy store. And also check out these other John Carpenter inspired tutorials.